Hello, everyone. We're starting our webinar around From Guidance to Reality, a discussion with the authors of NIST CSWP 39, which is the white paper published by NIST for cryptographic agility. So the release of NIST CSWP 39, Considerations for Achieving Crypto Agility, marks a major shift in how cryptography should be managed across modern organizations. For the first time, NIST frames crypto agility not as a theoretical concept or future requirement, but as an operational capability directly tied to risk, resilience, and the ability to change cryptography without disrupting the business. So today we're going to discuss various aspects of crypto agility related to the paper and also regards to the next steps. Things such as why NIST actually published this white paper and how the authors define crypto agility, the gaps NIST observes across organizations, and from NIST guidance to operational capability, how that will work. Today with me, I'm joined by authors of the Crypto Agility publication, Lily Chen, Russ, Housley, and Sean Turner. And maybe we'll take a minute for each one of you to do a brief introduction of Lily. I'll let you start. Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lily Chen. I'm a mathematician in the Computer Security Division of NIST. So I have been involved in many standard development efforts and also about the transition effort from DES to AES, from SHA-1 to SHA-2, SHA-3, and also from different parameters of public key cryptography.
Lily and Sean.
Hi, my name's Sean Turner. I work at SMIRD. It's a small consulting company. We do some work for NIST every now and again. I guess one of the other things I do is I've been very active in the IETF for a long time. I'm currently chairing a couple of working groups. The one that most people probably have heard of is TLS. I may talk about TLS today. I'm not talking for the working group. That's it.
Thank you. And Russ? Oh, Russ, I think, yeah, the audio we cannot hear at the moment. All right, while we're connecting, maybe we'll carry on with our conversation on a few topics. There's quite a lot for us to discuss. And one of the first topics, within the category of why NIST actually published this white paper, from this perspective, what changed in the threat technology and operational landscape that made crypto agility urgent enough to warrant a dedicated white paper now, right? So this is really the first white paper that is related to crypto agility, right? So it is a historic event, something that we've never really done before in cryptography. And Lily, maybe I'll let you start with your thoughts and your understanding of why this is needed and why now was the time to publish this white paper on crypto agility.
Okay. First, I would like to tell about my experience with each of these transitions. And between 2011 and 2023, I was the group manager for the crypto technology group. And so we kind of publish not only cryptographic standards, we also kind of provide guidelines on the transition, and especially from the triple DES to AES, and also from SHA-1 to SHA-2, SHA-3. So, and each of the transition is very painful for everyone, for the vendors, for the operators, for the practitioners, and also for NIST team. Because, the transition always have kind of challenged by the resource and by a lot of things. When I sit in this office, I often receive phone call from somewhere saying, oh, can you please give us another kind of year of the validation. We cannot move away from SHA-1, for example. So sometimes once the phone rang, I will think, oh, someone else will ask some question like this. So I can understand the pain, and we understand each of the transition is very challenging. And also we can see that at the very beginning of the we work on the PQC standards, we feel kind of scary because we don't know what will happen for that transition. And that's it's not a simple kind of change the key length, change one single algorithm. There's with the community needed to deal with so many different so many changes in different perspectives. Then we think that is the right time we should have a different mindset, right? So instead of dealing with each of the transitions, we need to pursue crypto agility to ease the future transition. So that is the background for this white paper.
Thank you, Lily. And also what we're seeing is that there's multiple schemes categorized, standardized for each category, right? For example, within CAMS, we see there's at least 2 schemes that were standardized so far. Within digital signatures, there's actually even more if we consider, the ones that are being standardized, the ones that are coming in the parallel track, and then there's more signatures coming. So it's really the first time that we're seeing that there's such a big variety, and somehow we need to be able to manage it as we move along. And there might not be one solution that solves all the questions that we have or all the use cases of these algorithms.
Yeah. Vladimir, the only point I want to add too, to Lily, like Lily hit it right on the head. Like, you got to do this transition. We've done a couple. They all took longer than we thought they would. So it's better to start planning now than opposed to wait, or like, hey, we're going to wait till we see one of these computers. That's too late. You need to start now.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing this out, Sean. And then, in terms of how long it takes to do the transition, right? I really like your point that we need to start as soon as possible. I mean, SHA-1 to SHA-2, like how long did that take, right? So for just
more than a decade, right?
Yes. So that's an important aspect, right? So if the quantum computer is here, it's I think important to understand is that yes, we're too late if we haven't done transition once CRQC becomes available. Another aspect is, I know before the publication of the white paper, NIST has organized crypto agility workshops, right? And how did the discussions during that workshop influence the decision to publish the white paper? Or was that something that you were gathering information for in order to publish the white paper? Or did that workshop actually, help you, create content for it, etc., create some feedback and understand where the public is, where the pain points are, etc.?
Well, the timelines like this, we released the first draft of this white paper before the workshop. The reason the first we release a draft of the white paper is to give an outline for to discuss this crypto agility for the workshop. And before we started the draft, we kind of worked and reached out to the industry collaborators. 2 of our co-authors, Russ and Chen, from industry, they are very much in the front of the crypto agility. In 2016, Russ had a kind of RFC, IETF RFC on the crypto agility. So we kind of prepared this white paper with some of the collaborators, and also we have the first draft of the white paper before the workshop, and the workshop input gave us more content and some different perspectives. Then we generated the second draft of this white paper. So before we finalize it in the last December. So it's kind of like we spent about a year and have 2 drafts for the public comments, and together with this workshop, the input from the industry and from enterprise, from the financial service community really significantly influenced the content of this white paper.
Right. I'd like to add a couple things about that RFC. One of the things after the SHA-1 to SHA-256 transition is we wanted to write down some of the lessons we learned to make it easier in the future. And that's what led to that RFC, because it took a lot longer than we thought it would. We thought 5 years would be enough time to update the protocol specifications, get implementations done and deploy those implementations. And we were way wrong. It took more than 10 years for that to happen. And some of the corner cases are still not done today. So, that was very frustrating. And we're looking at a much bigger transition to get to PQC than we were from the SHA-1 to SHA-256. So hopefully those lessons that have been captured in that RFC and then built upon in this document will make that transition much smoother.
Sean, if you have anything to add to this topic?
No, that's good.
And, SHA-1 to SHA-2 transition has been kind of addressed multiple times already in the beginning of our talk. And right now, Russ has addressed it as well. When we talk about crypto agility, we know that it is happening at the same time as the whole PQC transition, right? How much is PQC, a field of its own to push for crypto agility, or are we due for crypto agility anyway? Like, what are your thoughts? And maybe Sean, I'll let you start answering this one.
I mean, I do think that we're primed for it, right? And the idea is that we may have more than one in the future, right? Because this is some new, some of it's quote unquote new to at least some of the people, but maybe not to all the researchers. But I think that it's probably good to have this in your arsenal because it's not one and done. You got to be ready for the next time where something happens. I think you just need to be ready. So I think that the field was coming along, but then the PQ stuff kind of pushed to the end because then when people looked at some of the key sizes and even signature sizes, they were kind of like, whoa, those are bigger than we were thinking about. So they had to make some other additional changes to maybe support things like buffers and that. But
yeah, I think the one thing we absolutely know is the transition to PQC will not be the last transition. So crypto agility is going to be needed. Put it in now so that we can deal with that. But of course, it means different things at different layers, but I'm sure that'll come out later in the application, in crypto libraries, in hardware, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, and saying that it's not the last transition, I think that might sound scary to some of the audience, right? Because, it's always scary to do cryptographic transitions. But again, agility seems to be the only way forward to make everyone's lives easier. And Lily, if you have anything to add to that question.
Well, I think both Russ and Sean has already covered the most. If anything, I want to add is that the crypto agility is, this topic is so different from what we have worked on. And it's not about the algorithm themselves, not about the transition timeline. It's really a mindset, and it also very different for different application environment, like protocols, enterprise, computing systems, and hardware security modules, etc. It's so different. It's a completely new experience.
Thank you for that. And another thing is that when we talk about crypto agility, right? It's good to define it because over the course of the past few years, I've seen people use the term in various ways, and people were confused. What is really crypto agility? Now, finally, we have some, base setting. What does it mean to be crypto agile? And maybe I'll let each one of you to kind of, bring your perspective in your own words. What does it mean to be crypto agile? Lily?
So I will start first because in 2019, I participated in a workshop. The title is Crypto Agility, and some of my colleagues from NIST gave a kind of kind of like a definition. Well, not the definition, but a description. She used the 3 bullets to talk about different abilities. So then I think this is a very, very good start. However, when we released our first kind of draft, we received a lot of comments about the crypto agility. And some people say, you got to give us a formal definition about crypto agility. We need a formal definition. Well, I'm a mathematician. When I talk about the definition, that means a lot. I couldn't find anything can be considered as a definition. So as a result, we kind of in this white paper give a description of the crypto agility for protocols and for platforms and also for enterprise. So for protocols, we emphasize the keyword interoperability. And for the computing system, the keyword is running system keep running, right? And then for the enterprise is continuity for the operation and the protection. So I think this is very interesting. We couldn't come up with a unique definition and applies to every different application areas.
Sean?
So I think that it's also important to realize that crypto agility means different things at different layers. Like at the hardware, there's only certain functions that are going to actually be implemented in bare metal, and then microcode might be used on top of that to use those functions to implement different algorithms. But what you need to implement, say RSA or elliptic curve, is quite different than what you need for ML, DSA or ML Chem. And so, but above that, when you get into the software applications, or you might have cryptographic APIs that deal with things at digital signature level or hash level. But when you get into an application, it might just be, secure this session. So you have to look at the whole system in order to figure out what a solution looks like. But back to your original question about the definition, I think it's the ability to transition from one algorithm to another seamlessly without having to tear the system down. It can keep working while you're doing that.
And Sean?
Yeah, I would just say I thought it was interesting because I was kind of more exactly along with what Russ said, and then we kind of expanded it more as we were talking with Lily and some of the NIST people. And then as we were evolving the paper, people would say, "Hey, well, we got this definition. What about this?" And we'd be like, "Well, that's some of that's in there too." So if you actually go to Appendix B, you can see where we put definitions from other places like Etsy, I guess ANSI, and a couple of others. So you can kind of see. I think we were all kind of in the general ballpark of like, don't just lock it in, have the ability to change, but adding other nuances in there, I think it's important that people read those other ones too to get in mind what other people were thinking too.
Yeah, again, we know that crypto agility as a term has been around for quite some number of years, but again, sometimes people treat it, I can change my key size, so that's crypto agility to me. Other ones are saying, I can change the whole protocol, that's crypto agility to me. And then we got to really come to the basis. What do we mean and how do we build on top of that? So again, I think, it's great. It's a great start to have some formal way to define what it is, does it mean, and how mature you're actually in the white paper. I know there's a maturity model as well, which is, I guess, slightly more complicated maybe for some organizations who are just starting. But I think if we could summarize this and, to explain what does it mean to be, mature, and what are the main stages. And then this time I'll let Sean start on this one.
So I mean, looking at the stages, I think it's really important, the whole inventory thing, because people might not even know what they need to upgrade. They might not know what they got. They might have stuff that's already broken that they shouldn't have had in the first place, right? So I really think that when you kind of start there, I think it's really very important that you do that well to start off with, because then you can use that as a baseline for the next time you got to do it.
And Russ?
I don't think I have anything to add to that. Thanks.
Lily?
I don't think I have anything to add in this perspective, and I think Sean's summary is good.
And just another sort of aspect on it, as the organizations are going to start, using crypto agility or bringing crypto agility in their ecosystem, or I guess building the architecture that is crypto agile, where do you see is the most low-hanging problem, so to say, that they're going to run into? Like, what are they going to do wrong, or what are they going to not expect to be a problem or something they need to be on lookout for once they're going to start implementing it? And Lily, I'll let you start on this one.
Well, this is for the crypto agility. And I think if you think, right, okay, the purpose of the crypto agility is to make a PQC transition. As long as we can make the PQC work, it will be fine. That is very wrong in my opinion, because we can end up in the next, in the near future to run into different issues with that. Because right now we NIST have selected some algorithms and published some standards. But, this is not the end of the future cryptography. And then there will be a lot of continued evolution in the crypto standards. And I can give an example, and in the past, because RSA can do both encryption and signature. So the people use the digital signature for the possession of private key proof, even for encryption. However, at the very beginning, people say, oh no, PQC has no such a property. We cannot do the possession of private key proof in the same way as we did for the RSA. Well, there are some of the characters in the PQC, and the implementations will take advantage of that. However, if that's not generally true for all the future algorithms, we should consider whether this will limit us for the future. So that's something we need to think about for the crypto agility.
Yeah, I think Lily's completely correct, but I think there's another dimension to the problem. So there's the technical stuff that you need to deal with, but there's also dealing with the organizational dynamics and getting senior management buy-in that this is an important aspect, which is really important to a transition that's going to take multiple years. Make sure that the leadership is committed and the budget is there to start the process and finish it.
And also, some of you have mentioned that first step for, becoming crypto agile is really doing the inventory, right? So that's kind of, taking, I would say, one step back and say, hold on a second, before we can actually do crypto agility or do any cryptographic changes, we need to do the crypto inventory. So I just wanted to spend, maybe one round of talks on this step. I know that, NIST is also running the NCCOE initiative for PTC migration. One of them is a, crypto discovery track. So I just wanted to hear some of your insights on that side. And Lily, I'll let you start on this one.
Me, right? Well, so from this, we kind of, well, I think at this moment, NIST will like to be a coordinator and accommodator for this crypto agility approach. The reason is that different industry will have the different approach. Will need different approaches. NIST cannot kind of work with one industry sector and say this is applied to all of them. So we need to work separately and coordinate with different kind of application environment. And one thing I think is very important is to have the crypto community, the research community involved. Because in the past, the crypto research community has been very creative. That's by nature, by the research. The purpose is to bring in diversified of the crypto solutions. However, from the crypto agility point of view, we need to consider the cost and the resource limitation for the hardware, software, and to have the crypto research community be part of this crypto agility. So for that, from that point of view, and NIST will work as a central point to connect everyone together in this adventure.
Absolutely, and I really like the fact that you've mentioned that NIST will be the central point connecting, because I can say from my personal experience, it's been a great experience, working with all the other organizations, being connected by NIST, where we can actually bring some mutual trust into the game. And Russ,
the other thing is without doing the inventory, you don't know how big the project is. So you don't know how much budget to ask for. You don't know how many engineers you need. You don't know how many support staff and so on. So yeah, you have to kind of know where all your crypto is in order to figure out how each part of it is going to get transitioned, the applications, the operating systems, the hardware, and so on.
Absolutely. And sometimes the problem can be bigger than you might think, just from the fact that besides doing your, quantum resistancy transition, right? You actually have long time overdue items as well. One of my favorite questions I ask is MD5 quantum safe? And, people will realize the problem is deeper and more critical at this point.
Well, I know, and as you go to do this inventory, right, you may be going to places with people who maybe didn't go to those places before. And so then you have to have, governance top cover to be like, no, you actually need to tell me what's there, because we're going to try to figure out if we need to update it. So there's that layer as well.
And another aspect that I wanted to kind of discuss is governance. So what role does governance play in making crypto agility sustainable over time? Because right now, I guess it's a white paper, there's no obligation at this point, but there's some way of governance, some way of best practices, etc. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that as well. Lily, maybe you can start, or Russ, go ahead.
I really think that's super important in the PKI spaces, both public-facing PKIs and ones that are only used within a particular enterprise. We already have approaches to documenting the governance, the certificate policies, and the practice statements, and so on. But they all need updated for post-quantum algorithms. And so that's a good time to look at, has this been serving the enterprise well? What could we tweak while we're making this bigger change that might save us money or boost security or whatever your goals are?
And Lily?
I agree with Russ. The PQC is a good kind of exercise for the crypto agility. I say good exercise. That means it's not a final destination for the crypto agility. And from that point of view, and for example, like the project in NCCOE migration to PQC, that project itself, that the objective of causes migration to PQC. However, from that project, we can learn something about the crypto agility. So from that point of view, this is accommodate kind of like playground for all the practitioners and to pursue the crypto agility and bring that kind of experience back to this, they are industry specific, because, for example, we have some operators in telecommunication, and we have some people in some kind of collaborators from the hardware. So they can bring those things back to their own industry and further to enrich their own approach about to pursue crypto agility.
Yep. Sean, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, again, I think it's important to do the inventory, but it's hard to do the inventory without having governance to get you going. So I think from that level, you have to keep them going and keep them updated and keep them apprised of how it's going. Because if you run into bumps because you misjudged how big the problem was, or you need more people, you're not going to get it done unless you have that top cover. So I think it's important to have communication all the way around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when we talked about crypto agility, right? So we usually, we're pretty clear that we need to be able to switch algorithms, we need to be able to switch out cryptographic libraries. But it becomes trickier when we talk about, protocols as a whole. Like, is TLS considered crypto agile or not? When we can negotiate a cipher, or you're still fixed to that, set of negotiable ciphers, right? What happens with crypto agility when we get to protocols level, or even more complicated, what happens to crypto agility when we get to hardware like HSM or accelerators? And that's an interesting topic to explore. So I wanted to hear your comments on this and what your thoughts are in terms of crypto agility, these non-standard or non-intuitive environments for cryptographic agility. Lily, if you have any thoughts on this.
Well, I think from the protocol point of view, and especially for TLS, right? We already have that kind of like a cipher suite negotiation, and from the very early version of TLS. But the problem sometimes is that in order to achieve the crypto agility, sometimes we need to think another side of the things, the backward compatibility. That is kind of two things cannot go together. And that's also one of the reasons it's so difficult to sunset SHA-1 in the digital signature for entity authentication for TLS, because the one of the parties between the server and the client, usually the client say, oh, I couldn't do anything else but SHA-1. So in that case, they have to allow that cipher suite with SHA-1 for a long time. So this is the kind of two things in the future we need to focus on to try to make sure that to have the backward compatibility and also the crypto agility. The most difficult part is to stop using vulnerable algorithms. So that's my understanding, I think, because Russ started that RFC 10 years ago, so he must have more insights on this.
Well, different security protocols handle this differently. The way that SMIME does it for email, or TLS does it for the session that it's protecting, or IPsec for the layer 3 connections is quite different. Some bundle it into cipher suites. Some use a more of a Chinese menu approach of picking your algorithms, but they all have an approach to negotiate which algorithms to use for a particular security association. And so that works out okay, but the different protocols have different ways to register them. In the ITF, we use IANA registries for this, and that is a straightforward way. So the popular algorithms, including the PQC ones we're going to, and some hybrids there, have already been registered, and we have ways to get to them. Then the next question you ask is, does the library I'm using for that protocol support the algorithms that are acceptable under my policy? And there's another governance dimension, is where are those policies set? Sometimes they're set by an industry, sometimes it's just an enterprise, and sometimes it's a product group. But you got to figure that out. Which algorithms meet my security objectives, and so then you get to the hardware issues, where if you're going to get a TLS and you expect the keys to be inside a hardware enclosure, then you need to make sure that plumbs into the library you're using for the protocol. Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that I think most people know nowadays, after learning from our mistakes, that when you develop a new protocol, you build in some kind of algorithm agility where you can pick it. But then, as Russ said, it gets down to the implementations. So, for example, when we did Quick, right? It's relying on the TLS handshake, but of course, so it's got algorithm agility, so good for them. But then when we did MLS, message layer security, that it also built in algorithm agility. So I think as protocols come along now, that's becoming less of a concern. But it's like, okay, what does the product support, and then how does the configuration get set up to make sure it negotiates the right one, and if that's set properly too.
But I guess when we talk about protocols, we're talking about negotiation, but when we talk about, sort of app core crypto agility, that's when we can actually do it through so-called policy or some way to manage it. And I think an important aspect that I'm also seen being asked is that if I'm crypto agile, am I secure? And I think my question, again, I want your points on this, but my thoughts is that that's probably not quite the case, because crypto agility means you have a way to manage it, but nobody's preventing you from, selecting a weak protocol or a weak algorithm or a small key size, etc. So it's a way to manage things rather than, a core security solution. But I'll let you, share your thoughts on that part.
Well, that's why we put the little bubble on the side of the diagram in section 4 about policy. Is sure, if you want to make sure you have 256-bit security, well, then you're not going to use AES 128, right? And so that injection of policy, whether it's through a config file or just through which algorithms are shipping in your product, but that decision is going to be made. And so it's an important aspect of it.
Hannah or Lily, do you have any thoughts you wanted to share on this?
Well, I think the most difficult, this is very important because we need to move, so stop using of the algorithm if it's already vulnerable. For example, like a single dice, for example, like a triple dice and a SHA-1, this kind of situation. But on the other hand, it is hard. This is the harder part because, we often, to receive like a phone call, say their environment, they cannot kind of purchase new equipment, or they will tell us like operating technology, OT system, they don't update their system they update their system every 20 years. But you think about during the 20 years, we probably need to stop using quite a few of the algorithms which broken or weak or vulnerable and something. So this is kind of like a very important to stop, especially like in enterprise level. They need to have this kind of policy and things to stop you using the weak algorithm. So otherwise, we lost the purpose of the crypto agility.
Absolutely. And actually, one more item, talking about just stopping to use the algorithms, right? Just, for audience to kind of know, there's the NIST IR 8547, which literally says that depending on the use case, but between 2030, 2035, RSA and ECC will be disallowed and deprecated, which I think would be quite a big use. Not everybody has migrated to ECC yet, but it's, this is something coming. It's going to be a big change. Not just that you need to move to PQC algorithms, but you're going to be losing the access or being compliant if you're using the current algorithms that are extremely widely used today. So I think that's an important point, and about setting proper policies. At this point, I wanted to we have one question. I think, a few questions were responded, but there's one that is in our queue, which we kind of addressed, but maybe if we could, directly respond to that question. So it's the CSWP 39, section 3.2 notes shift from static hardening, no change, so fixed modular algorithms, to frequent updates via APIs. For HSMs in classified environments such as CAC or NSA, what governs update risk threshold when old immutability was security by obscurity? How does BOM or CBOM fit runtime agility testing? So anybody wanted to take a shot at this question? I mean, there's quite a few parts to it.
There sure are. I mean, the CBOM part, for example, is a piece of your inventory. In fact, the CBOM would be a great output for each component in your system. What crypto algorithms are involved and so on. But updates, another key part is to make sure that the updates are digitally signed by somebody who is authorized to make a policy or governance shift. If it's a product that your enterprise is deploying, are you ready to stand behind it? That's kind of a QA release question that has to be answered before you ship the software update.
And one last question I wanted to kind of address is, one of the points that we could connect crypto developers, app developers, crypto users together, talking about crypto agility. It seems like API would be a good common point. Do you believe that this is the case? And if so, what should it be like and how do we come to a common one? So basically, I'm just trying to figure out what is this connecting point for all of us, to make all of our lives easier from regardless what space we're in, if we're touching cryptography in one way or another. And Lily, I'll let you start on this one.
Well, my background won't allow me to give a good answer to this question because I'm a mathematician and not quite much in the implementation area. But I think this is something it's kind of something we can try to get people together to see whether we can do it. So at least we can accommodate such a kind of discussion. And in the ICMC 2026, that's a crypto module conference, I believe my former colleague Ruja will host a panel discussion on this topic. So I hope that the people they have the experience and after so many years in this area can give us some insights to about this common API, whether this is a solution for the crypto. This is one of the solutions for the crypto agility or not.
Right. It's one component, but at the same time, there's not an agreement on what API people want to use, PKCS11, Microsoft CAPI, and so on. And I don't think that we have any intention of driving anybody towards one API, but making sure that whatever API is used is agile.
And Sean?
I mean, I think that's basically it, right? Like, didn't want to enter there's one API to rule them all. I mean, that might be a good thing, but you'd have to convince a whole lot of people from a whole lot of industries that, like, this is the one, and oh, by the way, we should replace all these other ones that have been around for a very long time. So it would be challenging to do that, or it would be maybe a really.
Yeah, great. So we're trying to look basically how to make everyone's lives easier, but without complicating them because of making them easier. So it's a complicated topic, but I think it's going to be a lot of more discussions that are going to be happening around it. And the session that Lily was referring to is the ICMC, and I believe it's on April 23rd. So for those who are interested, you can look it up and see, the session led by Maruja Supaya. There's going to be a discussion on there. So if you're going to be attending ICMC, I think it would be great to provide input. I mean, we need, the most amount of input possible for this to actually happen and become real. At this point, I wanted to thank all of you, first of all, for publishing this white paper. I mean, I think this is a historic event in cryptography, right? It's really the first time when we have a white paper, specifically a white paper on cryptographic agility. To my sort of cryptographic mindset, it was very great, I would say a great piece of happiness to say, oh, finally, crypto agility is being, stated somewhere formally, officially, NIST has released it, and that white paper is, I think it's a great start to this big journey of crypto agility that could make all our lives much easier. So I really thank you for writing this paper and also for joining us today on the webinar to discuss it. I'm looking further to further discussions and maybe possibly more publications that could be coming out around this, maybe bringing it to the next and further levels of how to actually implement it, etc., in the future. Any last thoughts for anyone?
Well, I wanted to add one sentence. I like the term you use as a long journey. Yes, will be a long journey, and I think we will be always in the day one mindset for this crypto agility.
Thank you. Great.
Well,
Thanks
and
a lot,
thank
everyone.
you. I hope that people who took the time to join found it interesting.
Everyone.
Thank you.